this is the Music Press of Australia, Crowded House.
Howdy.
Thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon.
Press of Australia.
Yeah, finally you get to see them.
Have you guys been having a rocking good time in here? So it's been quite sort of patchy in there, really. There's a lot of...
Can I just tell you something just for a second? When you got up and when your songs started playing, when Missy Higgins started singing, and then Bernard started singing, and then you started singing, people in here started singing along to those songs. Now that has never ever happened in the press room of the ARIAs ever.
Wow. Well, I was absolutely gobsmacked, and it was wonderful when Missy was singing that people started singing along in the room as well.
Can I ask you the question that you're asked all the time, but on the back of that, just that moment, on the back of being inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame, what is it about those songs that has made their way into people's hearts across the globe, but so much here in Australia? What is it? What's in them?
Fucking good song.
They are. You did need the microphone after all.
If I knew that, see, Matt cuts to the chase straight away. If I knew that, I'd be doing it every day of the week. I don't know. It's just a joy and a blessing to have people identify with. Actually, I would say there's a moment when you're writing songs and you go, I just felt something. You know, like there's a little chord change or something. You go, actually, something just little hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I go. Now I know that that is usually a sign that it's going to do that for other people as well. So it's empathy, really. Music's all about empathy, and you know, I'm not alone in being able to conjure that up, but I have no answers or to the mystery of it all. So yeah, it's a blessing. Thank you.
It's 30 years for the ARIAs. It's pretty close to 30 years for you guys as well. When you got together in that, what was it, little room in Melbourne, a little over 30 years ago, Nick, and it was the Malays back in those. Lucky that that name didn't stick, probably. But
that's my name.
It's true.
It was too easy to subvert into the mundanes or the dullanes or the Malays. We thought. Yeah.
So much of a journey over those 3 decades. Give us a few of those moments, though, that for you reflect that arc, if you like, those 3 decades. There's obviously the Opera House, we know that.
Working backwards, yeah. Nick, what about you? Pick one while I conjure up one out of my brain. Pick a moment, any moment.
I think working with Mitchell Froome was an incredible culmination of good luck and timing. We first got signed to Capitol Records on Tom Whalley's first day at work as an A&R exec. And then Mitchell Froome Tom had just met Mitchell, so getting in the studio with Mitchell, who was defining an actual sound that at the time was considered really out of whack with the glam renaissance at the end, or revival at the end of the 80s, and the pre-grunge era. We were greeted with lots of unusual negativity, like Malcolm Hill telling us in London when we first went to Parlophone, had lunch with them. I'm sorry lads, Don't Dream It's Over has no legs, it's too Beatlesque. And then subsequently bands like Oasis, who were a kind of almost like a tribute band to the Beatles, were popular, paved by the way of Mitchell Froome's kind of legacy of vintage keyboards and you know, just really laying the pop thing down with We Were the Lucky Band at the time. And he loved Neil's songwriting from Split Enz days, and you know, we really owe a lot to Mitchell.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah. I think that we also became a band mostly because we ended up playing at people's houses. Nobody really gave a shit about us for the first 6 months. Really, I think first 6 months that first record came out, no, it had a mild appreciation, but nobody was really taking notice. And we actually dug deep, and we ended up playing at all these parties as a three-piece, and that's really, I think, where we became a band.
We were all from singing families.
We learned how to harmonise.
Yeah, Paul's family was a singing family, you know, and so we harmonised beautifully together, and we learned how to busk along the ways, but without having to do it in Burke Street Mall. You know, we had to do it to promote our record, which
we just played a bunch of restaurants in America and sent people away having had a really crazy good time, and we learned how to entertain. But it actually reminded us, and we kept that philosophy all throughout that when you're in a room with people, it has to feel as intimate as a lounge room, or you're not really in the moment. You know, if you're just presenting the show like a a big extravaganza, colour, sound, lights, tapes, click tracks, whatever, it's entertaining. It's like TV though. If you actually want to really connect with people, you've got to actually get to their level and actually hear them and listen to them, and they lean forward into it. And as soon as you make a mistake, you've got them, really, you know.
And Mark, what was it like for you walking into that kind of space for you?
It was kind of crazy. I didn't know what had happened. I met him at the airport like the day before
Seriously?
my first gig. I never played with him before. And we get on stage and
You were practicing on the plane with your keyboard.
I was learning the songs.
Literally, yeah.
And no, it was great. It was an energy I hadn't ever experienced in a band before.
Shortly
Why?
after that, Mark made the mistake of taking a very hot shower seconds before we went on stage, and scolded himself because the showers only ran at one temperature, and played a whole gig with Crowded House with kind of second-degree burns. So you really got to hand it to him, you know.
No, that's suffering for your art, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, there's a lot of questions to be asked this evening. Put your hand up and we'll take a few at this stage.
Sorry, we're rabbiting on.
No, you're not, actually. We could sit here and bask in your warm glow for hours, to be honest, but obviously you don't have that time, we do.
Yeah, any questions, anybody?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm going to ask one question down here. Yep.
Larry from the AU Review. You mentioned on stage about being in Los Angeles 30 years ago making music. How's the perception of Australian and New Zealand bands changed over the last 30 years in America? With two Americans on the panel there, I think there might be some perspective as well.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
How has the perception of Australian and New Zealand bands changed in the States over the last 30 years?
Well, I'm biased. My wife is from New Zealand, so everything New Zealand is great. It's great. No.
But we are in Australia, don't forget.
Well, that's true. Thank you.
All right, we've got
I think that the difference for me is that there was a little period, a bubble back in the day, where Midnight Oil, In Excess, Crowded House, there was a bunch of us having a little bit of success in America. And what happened was that a few people foolishly called it the Australian invasion, which was really a hiding to nothing. I think now what happens is everyone appreciates the fact that as a vibrant country, Australia is going to send amazing talent out to the world, and New Zealand, and it's not like something you need to gather around a flag for, you know, it's not like a big jingoistic exercise. In fact, the less of that the better, really. Music is universal, and if we've got any hope of unifying the world, I think music is possibly one of the best things we've got going, so let's not gather around flags with it, you know.
Now, a question from down here. We're going to use the aid of the computer as well to help with this one.
So 20 years ago you performed at the Opera House. In 1996, the average new car was $16,000, meaning the minimum wage in Australia was $5.15, and the most advanced phone was a Motorola flip phone. I was 4 years old. Question is, were you blown away that people were still fighting for tickets to your shows this week? And how pumped are you to get back out there this week?
So the question was?
The question was, how pumped
that
are
was
you?
a good question.
Are you blown away that people are still fighting for your tickets to your shows at the Opera House? And how pumped do you get back out and perform to the crowd?
Well, I really enjoyed the fact you gave some historical perspective there, because that is quite an interesting. It also was a time when there was a complete absence of health and safety, because the Opera House had over 100,000 people on the forecourt, and there's a wonder that no one died, really, it was, but no one did, because people look after each other in those situations, and it's nice when the population can be trusted. We now have a beautiful 6,000 people capacity at the Opera House, and we're going to, which is one of the reasons that we were inundated with tickets, because there's not that many comparatively. But we never take for granted the fact that people are excited and energised about us playing. It's incredible, really, that they flew out the door so quickly. We're determined to make those shows sing and fly and be as good as, if not better than, what we were like 20 years ago. And in order to reward the people who've paid this time. Last time it was free.
Marlene said, well, she's seen you Friday night and she can't wait.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you too.
All right, we're about to take we'll take another question down here. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Hi, I'm Cassie from Red Sky Music. I was 10 years old at that original concert, and you're my all-time favourite band. This is an honour. Sorry, everyone else did that work. At those concerts, you did have a very early Powderfinger open up for you, and at that time they were quite a new band. So obviously you've had a passion about local music from then on. Tell me about how you stay in touch with the community. If you still do.
I tend to, I live pretty remotely, and I tend to use my computer to do kind of source. If I'm working on something that I'm listening to, getting a chance to listen to music rather than making music, I put my computer to, YouTube or whatever, the platform to get like sounding kind of music. And some things, I could be working on something for 3 or 4 days, and if it's a painting or something like this. I did the artwork for the ARIA poster. That was the last time I did it. I discovered some great new music that from just that sequence of the computer finding you music. So unfortunately, I'm doing it that way as opposed to going to gigs now. I don't.
How did you find Powderfinger? Because it was quite. They went on to be one of the biggest bands in the country.
Oh, we had a great bill that day. It was a really great bill. It was You and My, Powderfinger and Custard, who were a fantastic band too. It was just that, we picked, we were lucky enough, it was a big event, we were lucky enough to have people say yes. But we just went for bands who seemed like they were vital and exciting and new, and they all went on to, well, I'm not sure, Custard did have a good life.
Oh, Castaro, they're fantastic, yeah. And they've just got a new record in the last couple of years.
They made a new record?
Yeah, a couple of years, last 18 months. Can I ask you one final question, Neil, before we let you go? You're about to step out on stage, tomorrow night, 20 years later. That 1996 concert is a concert that is a landmark concert in Australia's history. It's also a reflection of what those songs mean to people in this country and, like I said, around the globe. Stepping onto that stage tomorrow, is there anything that you think will be going through your head? Is there a sense of the occasion 20 years later?
There will be more emotion in those shows wrapped up than many shows. Although we'd always step on stage with every, pore in our body tuned into the. Is that working? Yeah, it's not working. Okay. We always step on stage meaning it, but I think they will have a lot of emotion wrapped up in them. There's the anniversary is one thing, but there's also just the feeling that we are actually. There's an alchemy involved in people's minds. We want to be able to live up to that, people's expectations, a lot of memory and nostalgia attached to it.
Are you nervous?
Properly nervous. Just want to do the right, get it right, and send people away completely blown away. Yeah, nothing less.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please thank Crowded House. Thank you so much, Neil.